A year ago, let me give a preface here. A year ago, I used an official crime survey of the United States Justice Department to show that in 2005, over 37,000 white women were raped or sexually assaulted by black males. Interestingly and incredibly, in that same year, statistically, 0 black women were raped by white males. Now, that fact to me is so damning it bears repeating. That's over 37,000, actually 37,460 white women were raped by black males, and practically no black women were raped by white males in 2005. Now, that article and the spreading of it on davidduke.com and on Stormfront sparked tremendous interest and outrage. There was outrage from our people when they found out that so many tens of thousands of white women, innocent women, were being raped by black males. It also sparked outrage from the liberals who said, "Oh my God, this is racist and this is horrible. How can you say these things? Even talk about it." Now they're more concerned about the feeling of blacks to talk about the fact that they're raping our women, the great women of our people, than they are about the victims of this terrible crime. Well, the latest Justice Department figures are now in, and they show that in the past 4 years, a projected total of 102,000 white women were sexually assaulted by black males. And the data, again, showed once more that the number of black women raped by white males in the last 4 years is statistically 0. I'm talking about zilch, nada, none. And I have a chart which I'm going to be putting in my the new edition of the Duke Report, which illustrates this and shows you each year and how this whole process takes place, and the reality of the whole of this and horrendous, just horrendous attack upon our people. How many times have you seen? You still see constant programs on television of white people exploiting blacks, and they put it just that way. Our children are taught that whites enslaved blacks, that whites lynched blacks, that whites discriminated against blacks. You have news specials constantly showing how real estate agents are discriminating against potential black buyers of real estate or apartments, or that shop owners are discriminating against black customers, or the police are discriminating by daring to stop and question or ask for the ID of black males in white neighborhoods. But if you really want to talk about cross-race issues, there's nothing more illustrative than this particular issue. Now, let me give our listeners a background on where this is coming from so they know this is just not some sort of racist spout against minorities. These figures come from the United States Department of Justice National Crime Victimization Survey for each year from 2003 to 2006, 2006 being the latest released year of the survey. The survey tracks criminality in the United States by surveying over 75,000 Americans, as well as hospital emergency rooms and other sources, to discover the sources and victimization patterns of crime. They're very careful to show a demographic mix in this survey. It's a very, extensive. It's millions of dollars are spent in the survey to try to understand who are the victims of crime, who are the perpetrators of crime, age groups, family members, race, sex. All these things are included. It's not to try to show whether blacks attack whites or whites attack blacks, but there is a concern by a lot of these people about hate crimes, and hate crimes, in fact, has even been included in this. So the people that are putting this National Crime Victimization Survey together are no fans of Stormfront or David Duke, and they certainly can't be described in any way as racist. In fact, they would be considered the opposite of anything like that, according to the media. So that's the source of it. Now, one of the charts that I show in the Duke Report, and you can also see the chart for 2005 on davidduke.com, are from the personal crimes of violence data, which is listed on table 42 in each year's crime survey study. So in every year they put out a study, they put out the reports, and each table is always of the same number. And this is the personal crimes of violence data. And it displays the projected numbers of sexual assaults by that survey and gives the race of the victims and the race of the offenders. Now, the chart shows the number of black and white victims of sexual assault, and it shows the percentage of those assaults committed by the different races in America. When one takes the number of white victims and multiplies it by the percentage of each racial offender category, one can easily discover the actual number of victims by their race and the race of the criminal offenders. All right, for instance, in my much publicized article in the 2005 crime statistics, I showed that approximately 111,490 white women were victims of sexual assault or rape, and the blacks committed 33.6% of them. The formula is simple. 0.336 times 11,490 equals 337,460 rapes of white women by black males. Now, the same formula can be applied to each year of the government crime survey. The total of the last 4 years amounts to over 102,000 American white women raped or sexually abused by blacks. Now, that same government study in all 4 years, in terms of white offenders against black victims, shows 0, with an asterisk. An asterisk shows that statistically it's 0 because the numbers are from 0 to 10. Now that's small, not thousands, but 0 to 10 in each particular year. So the number of white rapes is so low that statistically they are 0. Now, it's important to note to our people that it's true that most crimes of violence, rape, sexual abuse, except for some categories like armed robbery and things like this, most often they're committed by people the victims know or even family members. You know, when police come to a problem, or there's a kidnapping or a sexual attack or an assault or something, usually it's involving relatives, family members, or friends, because that's what people are around, passions flow, and things happen. So it's true that whites commit many crimes, and that includes sexual abuse against fellow whites, people that they're bound to be around most of the time. Now, those crimes by white people, against white people, or against anyone else, are certainly to be condemned by every responsible person, as we here do make that condemnation. But it's very important to note the cross-racial aspect of this crime, because European Americans are treated to an almost daily recital of white offenses. Offenses as a race against black people. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about in terms of that. I mean, we see constant stories and attention to police officers who are accused of racial profiling for daring to stop and question black males. We see a media promotion of the so-called hate crimes problem and the alleged need for repressive and unconstitutional hate crime laws. And every time they give an example, it's some minority who's harmed by a white person. And really, the hate crime, of course, amounts to nothing more than Orwellian thought crimes. It's the idea that someone's got to be punished more severely because they had the wrong thoughts in their head. Well, I think anybody who commits murder or violence or that kind of activity is guilty of a crime that should be punished by your crime, not by what's going on in your head. African Americans, in fact, are far more likely to commit race-biased crimes than whites are. And yet, it's a much smaller percentage of white crimes against minorities that are given all the attention. So the people in America have this image that blacks are victims of whites. And again, like you said, in the movies and television programs and books and so forth, it's a constant portrayal of whites who are abusing blacks.